What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again once again, and today we're going to be talking about Destiny's new weapon system, why I simultaneously love it and hate it. Now, before we get started, I want to go ahead and begin with a little bit of a disclaimer, a caveat. This was a demo, a really sick, nicely polished looking demo, but a demo nonetheless. We have no clue what will be in the final game, and things can change between now and September 8th. It's not likely that anything will change between now and September 8th, but you never know. With that said, let's dive right in. So, for those of you who are unaware, Destiny has completely and utterly changed the weapon system. Gutted, some would say, seemingly in favor of player versus player balance. Why would I proclaim that? Why would I label that accusation against Bungie? Well, because the new system looks very Halo in nature. You essentially have your two primary weapons, and then you can seek out heavy weapon ammo, or heavy weapon, I guess I would say if I was comparing it to Halo. When they spawn, the heavy weapons are now in the form of ammo, spawning in two places on the map every 30 seconds. That you, and you alone, can pick up. Very Halo-esque, wouldn't you say? Think about this in a multiplayer context, it makes a lot of sense. Hell, a younger, more naive me would have suggested this at one point with a bunch of friends and a couple of vodka and Red Bull down my gullet. But that was a stupider, younger, more naive me. That's when I was vastly more player versus player focused, and over the course of update after update, that made the Crucible unplayable at times, like it is now. I found myself doing more and more player versus environment activities, PvE. And now, with that non-segue, let's go ahead and discuss why these changes are horrifically terrible for player versus, well, everything that's not player versus player. Because it's terrible for everything that's not player versus player. So at one point in Destiny's development, its long original development, remember the game was supposed to come out in 2013. Missed that window by a bit. Anyways, at one point, this is how the game was designed. You had two primary weapons and a heavy weapon of sorts. It looked like sniper rifles would be in that heavy weapon of sorts category. We don't know the full details of that, but that system was scrapped for the one we wound up with. For obvious reasons. Those reasons, if they are not so obvious to you, I will go in depth now. Reason number 1. A shotgun is not Gallahorn. A sniper rifle is not the sleeper simulant. A fusion rifle is not Ray's lighter. So let me pose this question to you. How many of you have been doing a raid fight? Let's say that you, for whatever reason, like myself, do not have Dark Drinker because you just never invested the time to do it. You got the other two swords and you're just like, I cannot do that material grind again. I'm not wasting 2 fucking hours just to get a sword I'm going to use in one encounter. I don't care how cool it looks. I'm only going to use it in one encounter, and that's Axis, whatever his fucking name is. Anyways, so, you're sitting there, you got your Titan, and he's throwing down a bubble, and he's at Axis's feet, and he's like, yeah, with his Dark Drinker, and you're like, man, I'm so jelly, I wish I had one. But you got your rocket launcher. You're like, yeah, I got my rocket launcher, it's a cool rocket launcher. And you're just blowing him away. You're just, boom, boom, boom. Hitting him with the rockets, but now you're out of rockets because you threw all 8 at him and you're feeling good. You got all your damage, but there's still time to go. So you switch to your sniper. You got your Ex Machina and you're like, bink, bink, bink. Oh yeah, reload. Now you got 4 instead of 3. Bink, 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 bink. You dealt a lot of DPS because you had a rocket launcher and a sniper rifle. Now, in Destiny 2, you will either have a rocket launcher or a sniper rifle. you will either have a rocket launcher or a shotgun. You will either have a rocket launcher or a fusion rifle. Not and, or. Not and, not more DPS, or, and less DPS. Semantics and overenthused explanations aside, if we watch the Inverted Strike Spire, hell, if we watch the very first mission that Bungie has presented to us, that Bungie cobbled together, toned down, and presented us for the first ever gameplay reveal of Destiny 2, meaning that this was their A game. This was the content of the game that they thought was the creme de la creme. That wasn't too spoilery, right? Because you don't want to spoil the spoils with the spoiling. But they thought that this was a nice vertical slice of content that they could share with us without spoiling things. So, we have this mission, and what's the setup of the first mission? Oh, defend against 3 waves. Well, I'm glad your design philosophy hasn't evolved. And we see this with the Inverted Spire Strike, which an inverted spire is just a hole in the ground. BT dubs. Moving forward. So, we go into the Inverted Spire Strike, and we have these nice big land masses. There's a lot of open space. There's a lot of enemies. That's really cool. But you get down into the spire. You burrow down in through this fucking excavator, and you get down there, and there's a big Atheon wannabe fuck-off Vex. So you start fighting this big Atheon wannabe fuck-off Vex. Well, you know what I noticed instantly about big Atheon wannabe fuck-off Vex? Well, he just falls in line with Bungie's normal design. He's a big fuck-off boss with a million fucking points of health. That's a huge damage sponge. Really doesn't have too much of a gimmick. The floor drops out. You drop down to other levels. But other than changing scenery, a la Mortal Kombat, he's just the same fuck-off health sponge of a boss that we've been fighting. Yeah, he falls apart, and that's kind of cool. But ultimately, a lot of health, a lot of ads. Now our DPS has been limited. Our ability to kill him in the most efficient, most effective way has been limited because we can't go in with a rocket launcher and a sniper, or a rocket launcher and a shotgun, or a rocket launcher, and more likely, because I imagine it'd be vastly more usable than a shotgun or a sniper, a rocket launcher and a fusion rifle, or, a machine gun and a fusion rifle. Though I don't think machine guns are in Destiny 2. I haven't seen one. So, moving forward. Yes, we have all this cool stuff, but our ability to DPS bosses has been diminished. And it doesn't look like Bungie has changed their design philosophy enough to say, well, hold up, the raids will be different. No, we have no inclination of that. We have absolutely no inclination to believe that they will change the raids in any significant manner that will make the boss anything more than a glorified bullet sponge that we have to shoot with snipers and rockets, but now we have to choose a sniper or a rocket. We don't get both. So, what does this do? Well, not only does this make encounters harder, but it limits the options that players have. It pigeonholes them into certain things. So now you have to have that really great sniper or that really great rocket, because if you don't, you're not getting in a raid team. I know that's how it kind of was before, back in year 1, when everybody's really super serious about getting Vault done, but that was more to do with the limitations of how the leveling system worked and the most efficient way to do things, because let's be honest, you don't want to go on an LFG, you don't want to spend 4 hours with some guys failing at the same checkpoint. You want everybody to have all the equipment, know what they're doing, get in, get out, bada bing, bada boom. Now when you enter a raid, you better be ready for every single encounter. You better know exactly what gear you need for every single encounter. And you better fucking have what the meta requires for every single encounter. Because if you don't, you're getting booted. Like, that's how this is going to work. This is how this is going to play out. You can no longer go, well, I don't have Galahorn, but I have a comparably okay rocket launcher, and I have a really good sniper. Nope, it doesn't matter. You need Galahorn for this encounter. You better have Galahorn for this encounter. Like, it's not going to be like year 1 or year 2 where you can kind of like squeak past if the group was willing to allow you to. Nope, there's going to be none of that. You now have to have it, or you will not be allowed to do it. In year 1 and 2, yes, there were some raid teams that were like, you need Icebreaker, you need Galahorn, you need... But a lot of times I found if you had one or the other, you could scoot by. Because generally speaking, if you had like Hazen's Vengeance or something comparable, you were okay, you know? But now you have to have the Icebreaker and the Galahorn. And you have to have them for different encounters, and you have to know which time to use them. And it's just going to be a clusterfuck. Maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion, but I just see this going sideways really quickly. Let's just go ahead and, again, I'm being kind of hyperbolic, right? I'm playing this up a little bit more than it needs to be. But let's go ahead and give an example, right? So, for example, I like to use a shotgun in the Templar's Well, right? Kills the ads really well. It kills the oracles really well. You know, you just get in there, you crush a Minotaur's face, you crush an oracle's face, and then you pop to your sleeper when you need to, and you just start nailing the Templar, right? You know, later on. You have all this stuff equipped already, so you're not fumbling around in your menus for each individual encounter, changing things up. The way it is now kind of allows you to have a baseline of perks and sets and abilities that you can kind of go into the encounter with, and if you absolutely need to, you can change it up. But generally speaking, if you have a good shotgun, you have a good sniper, you have a good heavy, you have a decent primary, you're going to be okay by just equipping those, and you can go from point A to point Z in the raid, and you'll be fine. With the new system, you're constantly going to have to be changing things up. You're not going to be able to put on a loadout that's kind of a jack-of-all-trades loadout, master of none, because you're going to have to... There's going to be encounters where you need a sniper. That's how it already is. There's going to be encounters where you need a rocket. That's how it already is. So now with the system, I'm spending a ton of time in my menu fumbling around with bullshit because they decided to change a system for player versus player. And I guarantee you this is changed for player versus player because people would use their secondaries as primaries. And I get it. I completely understand this system for PvP. It's utterly horrific for PvE. Which is kind of interesting because PvE is where players actually spend the most time. So this constant changing things for PvP, which I love PvP. I probably do spend most of my time in PvP. But changing things for a non-competitive game, because Destiny is not competitive, let's throw that right out the fucking window now. Destiny's not competitive, and it's never going to be competitive. It's not balanced. You cannot have 5 million guns with different perks, different setups, different loadouts. 5 million different pieces of armor with different perks, different sets, different loadouts, different ways they affect your character. You can't have different character builds and be competitive. There's too much randomness in the system to be a hardcore competitive MLG FPS. So this adherence to the idea that Destiny needs to be this hardcore competitive game is ludicrous just on the face of it, just when you look at everything Destiny actually is. Now, if they disabled perks or disabled this, that, and the other, maybe. maybe you would get closer to something that resembled a shooter, or maybe if you mainlined it to where everybody had everything when they came out of the gate that was exactly the same thing, maybe. Maybe, but I doubt it. What this is doing is fundamentally changing the way we engage in player versus environment for the worst. This is going to cause you to have everything instead of just getting by with just good enough. This is going to cause you to spend more time in your menus, and I just don't think it's a good system. Now, I could be wrong. I could be completely and utterly wrong, and I really hope I am. Maybe there's some really cool shit with the way weapons are used. Maybe there are snipers that will be in the secondary slot. Maybe there are shotguns that'll be in the secondary slot. And the ones that are in the heavy slot are the ones that we consider the A-list ones right now. But if you go in and you want to use one that's just, it's like a Praetus Revenge type sniper, or if you want to use a shotgun that's more of a Stolen Will type shotgun, okay, you know what? That's going to be in your secondary slot. But if you want to use the Mapador, or if you want to use LDR 5001, that's going to be in your heavy slot. Who knows? We don't at this time, so fair enough. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.